Well, a lot sure can change in a week. Let's get started. Hi, hello, and welcome in to the Ball Don't Lie podcast, episode number 158. My name is Austin Elmore. I'm your host, and thank you for being here. Last week, I talked about all this different stuff that was going on in my life and these opportunities that I have and this future and this excitement and this time that I'm going to be dedicating to this new thing and blah, 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 blah. And then, like, 2 days later, they're like, nah, just kidding. We're going to bring Tony Pike back. So it's been a weird couple of weeks, a very strange couple of weeks. I'm excited to sit here and talk about the Bengals with you. Thank you for being here. Not going to talk about all that other stuff anymore. I'm kind of over it. Don't want to talk about it. Over it. Whatever. Let's move on and get on with our lives. The Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. I didn't expect Flacco mania to appear this quickly. Like, he played well in the second half against Green Bay, and I was thrilled with that. I thought, okay, Pittsburgh's defense, there's some holes there. Maybe short week Thursday night. You always got to pick the AFC North home team in those, and there's like a win streak dating back to like 2015. But I did not expect Joe Flacco and the Bengals to play as well as they did offensively against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night. Jamar Chase set a single-game franchise record, broke his own record from a couple of years ago with 16 receptions for 161 yards and a touchdown. It was an awesome night at Paycor Stadium. White Bengal, white out, Thursday Night Football, all the stuff that you're looking for, it happened. And the Bengals did what they had to do, which was beat a division foe, advance to now 2-0 in the AFC North, get to 3-4 total with an opportunity coming up this week against the New York Jets, and then you have a chance going into the Chicago game and then the bye week to set yourself up nicely for the second half of the schedule. The Bengals deserve credit for finding a way to win, and anytime you beat a division rival at home on primetime, you deserve credit, and the Bengals deserve credit. There was a lot going on in this game. It actually got started before the game when the inactives list got announced and Cam Taylor-Britt wasn't on it. That's right. He was on it. Cam Taylor-Britt wasn't on the active list is what I'm trying to say. The Bengals made Cam Taylor-Britt inactive, a.k.a. a healthy scratch. They decided we're trying to send a message to our young cornerback that his play, his practice, his preparation is not good enough. And I don't know that the Bengals are looking at it saying, we're going to try to embarrass this guy. They're looking at it saying, we need to send a message to him and to the rest of the team that he is not playing up to the standard. And because of that, Cam Taylor-Britt, you're not going to play on Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was notable because they're going up against DK Metcalf, and Cam's size and speed and physicality is a perfect match for that type of receiver that DK Metcalf is, and they've had some battles in the past. That was an embarrassing moment for Cam Taylor-Britt, and hopefully the message is sent and received that the player he's been is not the player he needs to be. I was told that Cam left the locker room almost immediately after the game, didn't stick around to do much celebrating with his teammates, certainly didn't stick around to talk to the media. So something to keep an eye out on with Cam Taylor-Britt, and hopefully he rebounds nicely this week in practice. And as I'm recording this, it's Tuesday night, so the Bengals practices will begin on Wednesday, and then we'll see. Hopefully that's a nice rebound opportunity for Cam Taylor-Britt. So I also want to give credit where it's due to Zach Taylor. I've been kind of tough on Zach Taylor. I've kind of said I'm out on Zach Taylor. He lost me a couple weeks ago. Well, he may have found me again. The way that he called the game against the Steelers on offense, I think it was the best play calling game Zach Taylor has had since the 2022 divisional round playoff game at Buffalo. You might remember the Bengals won that game, I believe 27-10 over Buffalo. Speaking of which, Cam Taylor-Britt had an interception late in that game to seal it. I had placed a wager that game too on Cam Taylor-Britt anytime interception. And I was watching at my friend's house, a place we call The Ridge, and it was like last second heave up prayer ball from Josh Allen. Cam Taylor-Britt intercepts it. Not only am I jumping up with glee because the Bengals won the game, but also because I won like $80 on a Cam Taylor-Britt interception. Good memories. I remember when Cam Taylor-Britt was good. Anyways, Zach Taylor was good that day. He was good again on Thursday night. Unbelievable performance from Zach Taylor as a play caller to set things up for Joe Flacco, for Jamar Chase, and all of a sudden the Bengals' offensive running game got going as well. Chase Brown goes up over 100 yards. He was averaging at 1.10 yards per carry. Samaje Perine had a nice night as well. Altogether, a very successful day for the Bengals offense, and of course it was led by Joe Flacco. It is so impressive what this guy is doing. Gets here 10, 12 days ago, has a game right away in which he's asked to be the starter, has a rough first half, plays okay in the second half. Oh, by the way, you got to turn you around real quick for a Thursday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Joe's no stranger to the Steelers. He's played them something like 25 or 26 times in his career, including in the playoffs, and he shows up and is just masterful. Throws for 340-plus yards, a few touchdowns, throws one to Higgins, throws one to Chase, throws one to Noah Fant. The run game gets going. He got the ball out quickly. He didn't hold on to it. He was only sacked twice. It was a just nearly perfect offensive game for the Bengals. They were highly efficient. They were incredibly, I guess the word I'm looking for is aggressive, because on third downs, when it got third and long, they weren't throwing the ball short of the sticks. They were going past the sticks. I thought Zach had great feel with his play calling. He was keeping Pittsburgh off balance. And again, when you have even the slightest threat of a run game, that allows you to do so much. Like, it allows you to do so much and opens up the rest of the offense. I thought Zach had a good balance of RPOs, of quick game, of under center play action, of outside zone, of inside zone. There was a couple of tricks. I don't know if I'd say tricks, but some creative pulls and design in the run game. That's the word I'm looking for. There was some creative design in the Bengals run game that allowed Chase Brown to get going. There was a couple plays where Ted Karras got out and pulled. Orlando Brown Jr. got out and pulled. And, that stuff, when you run the football even a little bit, it opens up everything else. Defenses have to respect that. And I thought Zach had wonderful feel of having the entire playbook at his disposal, not having to worry about Flacco getting it or not getting it, especially because Jamar Chase was in the huddle too. And Jamar has taken over this leadership role on the field, especially in helping Joe Flacco throughout this entire situation. And, if he says a play wrong, Jamar can correct him, or, it helps the offense get from Zach to Joe to the rest of the team, and Jamar kind of being the bridge guy for all three of those. Really, really important. And having like another coach on the field, like the leadership that Jamar Chase is starting to show and starting to emerge with both on and off the field, I think is a really big part of this Bengals story of the 2025 season. For the first time in his career, he's a captain. And when you're a captain, Jamar's taken that seriously, and he's not shied away from that by any stretch of the imagination. So that's been cool to see as well. And altogether, an awesome night, a fun night. You beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Andrei Iosivas bounced back. That's all well and good. Offensively, it's fun and it's exciting, and you have a chance. But there are still major issues with this defense. I'll give you one positive to start on defense, though. DJ Turner. DJ Turner has been wonderful. I got some numbers here for you from DJ Turner. How about this for the Bengals' young cornerback? He's been playing like the best cornerback in the NFL. Well, how about these numbers? Among cornerbacks in the NFL, DJ Turner has the most forced incompletions. He has the highest forced incompletion percentage. He has the most pass breakups in the NFL. He has the most interceptions among cornerbacks in the NFL. He's allowed the third lowest passer rating when balls are thrown to him in the NFL, and his reception percentage allowed is the third best in the National Football League. That is CB1 type of stuff from DJ Turner. He is ascending. He's taking a step forward. He's playing consistent. He's playing with confidence. He was able to intercept an Aaron Rodgers pass on a difficult pass to DK Metcalf. DJ Turner, one of those guys we're looking for to have a step forward. We're seeing it. And I'm appreciating that because if you're able to have that sort of play on the back end, it trickles down to the rest of the defense. Hopefully, consistent play from Dax Hill, from Josh Newton, maybe from Cam Taylor-Britt. That all helps the secondary, helps the pass rush. Marry those two together. That was the other thing. No Trey Hendrickson on Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Shamar Stewart did come back. He didn't do anything. Like, he didn't register a single statistic, I don't think. And it's tough, coming back from an ankle injury as a young player. Like, I don't know that I would have a bunch of expectations for him, but the conversation around Shamar has always been he's going to have to figure out how to produce at the NFL level, and having Trey opposite him should help him. Obviously, a little bit more difficult for Shamar to do that when Trey's not playing. The update on Trey, he's day-to-day, according to Zach Taylor. That's what Zach said on Monday. There'll be another update from Zach on Wednesday. But I think the Bengals are confident that Trey can return to the field this weekend against the New York Jets. Other things that stood out to me in the game, Logan Wilson played a little bit more. That was because of those heavy tight end sets that the Steelers were using. Demetrius Knight Jr., he's just not close to being an NFL caliber player to me right now. We've seen him kind of go back and forth on the bench. He plays really fast, and that's one of the things people like about him. He's aggressive, he's fearless, he plays fast. There's a difference, however, in playing fast and playing under control. And I don't think Demetrius Knight Jr. plays under control enough. And I fear that he can't play fast and under control because he's got this great athletic ability. He's got this sideline-to-sideline speed. But if you're just running as fast as you can or getting to the spot as fast as you can, fundamentally, how can you break down and make the tackle? Fundamentally, how can you put yourself in the best position? There's a difference between having freak athleticism and elite speed and being a really good sideline-to-sideline linebacker and also being able to play control, to get to your spot, to stay to your spot, to stay with the guy, to wrap up, to tackle, to drive your feet. All those things are imperative to being a really good linebacker in the NFL. Demetrius Knight has shown flashes, but they've been inconsistent. He needs to play under control. Can you marry speed with control? And if you can, you got a really good linebacker. My fear with Demetrius Knight is that when he plays under control, he loses his speed. And that then makes him a linebacker that's just not productive at the NFL level. There is some work that needs to be done there. Hopefully the Bengals can work with Demetrius Knight. And as a whole, they have to tackle better. I mean, they just have tackled so poorly over the last couple of weeks, both in Green Bay. I think they were charged with 17, 18, maybe 19 total missed tackles. And they weren't good against Pittsburgh the other night either, by any stretch of the imagination. All right, so that pretty much puts a bow on what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers game and the Bengals now being at 3-4. We do have an update on Joe Burrow. How about this? Ian Rappaport of NFL Network and on the Amazon Prime crew Thursday night said that Joe Burrow absolutely is planning on coming back in mid-December. His rehab is going well. He's had no setbacks. He's telling people in the building if he can come back, he will come back. And certainly that if the Bengals are in the playoff hunt, he will come back. He also doubled down the following day and said that he's kind of aiming, Ian Rappaport said this, he's aiming for those final 3 weeks of the season when the Bengals play the Miami Dolphins, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cleveland Browns. So that would be starting December 21st with that game at Miami. That could be the first game back for Joe Burrow. That's, again, if everything goes smoothly, there's no setbacks, seeing how his foot and his toe and all that responds to once they get on the field and start doing work. I think we're still a long way away from that, but it is at least an update on Joe Burrow. We saw him on the sideline, which I think was a big boost to the whole team and especially to Joe Flacco. I think if Joe will continue to travel with the team, and obviously the Bengals are at home for this week against the Jets, next week against the Bears, then the bye week, and then so they don't travel again for another month, basically. I'd expect Joe by that point to be traveling with the team. So, good news for the Bengals and Joe Burrow in that sense. Well, now you move on to the New York Jets. The Jets are 0-7. They're making a quarterback change. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starting quarterback. At least that's where it's trending at the time I'm recording this, which means Justin Fields is getting benched. And I love Justin Fields, first-team all-good guy, one of my favorite Ohio State players of all time. he deserves to be benched. He's not playing good football. He's not helping the New York Jets. They are a complete dumpster fire at 0-7. Now, they've got some pieces. They've got some stuff that, it makes sense on paper, and they've got some talent, and they've played in a lot of close games this year. And so my biggest fear here is that you have a hangover game after a big Thursday night win in the fashion that the Bengals had against the Steelers last week. Listen to this, okay? If there's one thing you glean from this podcast today, it's this. If the Bengals tackle the way they have been tackling against the New York Jets, they will get beat. Period, point blank. Here's my issue with this part of the schedule, because everybody's thinking, okay, won the game against the Steelers, now you're going to win against the Jets, then you're going to win against the Bears, you're going to be 5-4 against 5-4 going into the bye week, and then you come out against Pittsburgh. You can never in the NFL assume victory. There is no such thing as an easy win. And when you have a team that is built like the Bengals in particular, that has a bad offensive line, a bad defensive line, and they can't tackle, those three things right there, that is a recipe for disaster. Those are all the ingredients to get your ass beat in the National Football League. The Bengals have to improve those things, whether that's through reps, whether that's through getting healthy, whether that's through acquiring players, whatever it is, they have to clean that stuff up. It does not matter the record of your opponent. It does not matter if you think they're inferior or if you're superior. It does not matter whatsoever. If you play like that, you will get beat in the National Football League. So I don't want Bengals fans going into this game against the Jets expecting to win. You should never expect to win. You should expect that you can execute the way you're supposed to execute, and if that happens, if you do what you're supposed to do correctly, then you'll win the football game. You cannot go into this game just thinking, it's the New York Jets. We'll just roll right over these guys. Won't be a problem, because you will get your ass beat in the National Football League. We've seen it time and time again. And I've said this before. Go back to 2019. The Bengals were 0-11. The Jets were 4-7. And the Bengals had just lost Andy Dalton for 3 games. They benched him, and they went with Ryan Finley. It was part of the tank to get Joe Burrow. The Bengals were terrible, dude. They were 0-11. They were awful. And the Jets weren't great, but they were a lot better than the Bengals. And the Bengals whooped their ass that day, 22-6 at Paycor Stadium. I was there. It was Zach Taylor's first career win. It was a wild game, and the Bengals dominated because the Jets didn't do the little stuff right. That sort of stuff right there has to get cleaned up. And I have a bad feeling about that, because those are the little things that hang around and hang around and hang around and get you beat in this league. And the Jets have enough talent to make that happen. So in 2019 is a perfect example. The Bengals were 0-11. They were going nowhere. They had nothing to play for. The Jets weren't that great either, but they were a lot better on paper than the Bengals, and the Bengals killed them that day for Zach Taylor's first career win. Little stuff like that, you have just got to get cleaned up in this league. So for me, I think how the Bengals will be attacked by the Jets, similar to what the Steelers did. I thought the Steelers had a good game plan. They put the ball to the perimeter. They threw the ball and tossed the ball to the perimeter in the run game and the pass game. They got their best athletes out in space and forced the Bengals to prove that they could tackle. And they couldn't. And so the Steelers would break tackles and they'd get chunk yardage. They'd get 4 yards. They'd get 6. They'd get 8. They'd stay ahead of the game or ahead of the chains consistently. They ran the ball effectively, and then they took shots down the field and succeeded. Deep ball to DK Metcalf, deep ball to Pat Freiermuth. That's going to be the plan for the Jets. They're going to try to run it and use their athletes like Garrett Wilson, who's questionable, and Breece Hall out in space. Get those dudes out in space, force the Bengals to prove that they can tackle, and that's going to be the game plan. Shorten the game, run the football, keep it out in space, and force the Bengals defense to prove. And also, if Trey Hendrickson's back, you're going to mitigate the pass rush by getting the ball out of the hand of Tyrod Taylor quickly. That's how I expect it to go. For the Bengals on offense, it's continue to have that feel, continue to have that unpredictability. What I didn't mention earlier is the Bengals did something against the Steelers that they've never done this season, or I can't remember them doing at all since Zach Taylor's been the head coach here. They were under center, normal pass play, which means ball snapped, they dropped back. There wasn't a ball snap, play action, roll out, move the pocket, none of that. It was ball is snapped, drop back and pass. Old school, West Coast type of football right there. The Bengals have never done that before. Major tendency breaker, and now teams have to prepare for that when you go under center. Not only can you run it, not only can you play action it, but you can also snap the ball and get it out of your hand quickly. Good wrinkle from Zach Taylor and the Bengals offensive coaching staff. Look for more wrinkles that they want to put on tape and want to try to execute with what makes Joe Flacco comfortable at this point in the season. As far as the rest of the NFL goes, it's been incredibly impressive what the Indianapolis Colts have done. I've been skeptical of the Colts, but the way that they handled the Chargers really sold me on them. They've got a good defense. They've got a good run game. They've got good weapons on the offensive side. And overall, I like what I'm seeing from the Colts. Right now, they're the number one seed in the AFC. Patriots look good. Drake May, you could make the argument, is playing the best quarterback of anybody in the NFL right now, and they are going to be a major issue. With the Broncos, I can't seem to figure them out. You know, they should have lost to the Giants this weekend in Denver, but because the Giants is the Giants, they blew that game. Denver finds a way to win. I'm not sold on them. I'm also not sold on Pittsburgh. Their defense is a major, major issue, but they do have Aaron Rodgers, and that can cover up a lot of those issues. Buffalo is 4-2. They had a bye week this past week. They're inconsistent on offense, and I don't like their depth, but they're still good enough to make the playoffs, and with Josh Allen, you have a chance. Chargers are 4-3. They're injured, but they're competitive. They're just trying to get healthy and figure out what it looks like with some of those depth pieces in play. Jacksonville is 4-3. Bengals already beat them. They're in a bit of a skid right now. Got their ass beat in London by the Rams. They're a young team. They're learning. They got a young coach. He's learning. I'm still high on the Jags. Chiefs are 4-3. All of a sudden, they look scary again. That's not good for anybody. Patrick Mahomes currently the odds-on favorite to win the NFL MVP. Then you have the Bengals after that. So Colts, Pats, Broncos, Steelers, Bills, Chargers, Jags, Chiefs, Bengals. The Bengals are the 9th team in the NFL, or in the AFC. The top 7 make the playoffs. As far as the NFC is concerned, I'm not sold on Philly. I'm not sold on Tampa due to their injuries. Right now, the 2 best teams in the NFC, the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams. Those are my top 2. And if the Lions play defense the way they did Monday night against Tampa, I think they'll be in Santa Clara playing for Super Bowl 60 out there at Levi's Stadium. All right, that does it for me this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to those of you who sent me some kind, uplifting, and heartfelt, warm messages this week. It really does mean a lot to me, and I appreciate your support and your loyalty to me, to my show, to my brand, and to this whole thing that I continue to try to build. If you liked what you heard, you can hear me weekdays from noon to 3. I co-host a show called Tony Pike's Cincy 360 with Tony Pike. That's on ESPN 1530 from noon to 3. You can also follow me on all social media at Auty Elmore, AUTYELMORE. Thank you so much for listening or watching to this episode of the podcast. Please share it with somebody. Leave a rating, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Do whatever you got to do to help the podcast grow. Thanks so much for being here. Talk to you again next week. And as always, have fun, be safe, go Bucs.